G Garza. Welcome to another episode of Put It Together Live. We're here on Facebook Live, coming to you from Laguna Beach. Today we have a very special episode, something that we wanted to do for a long time. First, I want to say hi to our staff, our crew, our producer, Christian Ramirez, our floor manager, Worrells, and our assistant producer and controls. So if you have any questions or comments along the show, Martha or Ormonde will be on the controls answering your questions and send them over to us. So make sure that you comment, send questions, anything, everything. There's no editing today, so whatever you want to ask. Today's show, we were going to talk about PrEP, and there's been a big controversy about PrEP along the way. But let me give you just some stats and some numbers before we start. It was actually used, Truvada was used as an HIV medication, and in 2012, the FDA actually authorized it to be given out as a preventive pill. It's an oral pill once a day, and Treva and Viriad are also, as far as this page, but I haven't heard anybody use those. Have you? Yeah.
No, nothing yet. I mean, they're working on a study right now with the SCOBY, and so that is possibly the next medication that is going to be approved along with Truvada, and kind of going forward there with other.
And I'll introduce these guys in just a minute. So right now, as many as 30,000 people in the U.S. Are known to be taking pre-exposure prophylaxis to prevent HIV. This is the last numbers that we have, but those are like mid-2016, so the numbers should be higher by now. The cost for PrEP right now, there's a big number, and I was very surprised. If you take the generic version, you can pay as little as $70 a month. But if you get Truvada at cost, it can go up to $10,200 a month. So the jump from one thing to another is really impressive. So before I continue with anything else, I want to introduce my panel, and friends too. Ryan, hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
You want to tell the folks who you are?
So my name is Ryan Assaf. I was the PrEP navigator at the AIDS Services Foundation for the past year, and I did some research with PrEP on treatment in South Africa for about a year as well. So
thank you.
And I'm Jonathan Ramirez. I'm a current PrEP user, and I'm here to share my story about what it's like.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. So we're going to start with Ryan and PrEP. People are still on the fence about it. There are still some controversies. Some doctors still don't like to prescribe it. Give us the basics if you can, and some education. Educate us on PrEP.
Okay, so PrEP, just to break it down, stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis. So what that means is it's a medication that you take before you are exposed to the virus. So for this case, it's going to be for HIV. So it's a medication that you take every single day. I kind of compare it so people get a visualization with like a birth control for HIV in a sense, and a lot of people kind of don't like that, but it's just something for others to have a reference to. So it's a pill that you take every single day. That if you take it every single day, you're protected. The CDC says up to 92%, with other studies saying up to 97 and 99%. And so we kind of say more towards that 97 if you're taking it every single day. As far as the CDC, they have accumulated other studies, and so that's why the 92% is a little bit lower in these studies where people weren't taking the medication every day. We're taking about 4 days a week, and that will keep you at that 92%. But if you're at that every single day, you're protected at a really high rate.
So, who would be the prime candidates for PrEP?
So, I mean, you have different groups that are more at risk for HIV than others. What I like to say is, so it's not limited to anyone, is anyone who has more than one partner, or their partner has more than one partner, that they are a candidate for PrEP. Now, you have your higher risk groups, so injection drug users, or sex workers, or men who have sex with men, or people who are in a serodiscordant couple, so one HIV positive partner and an HIV negative partner. Those are the ones where PrEP is going to be most effective, but it shouldn't be limited just to that.
Now, some people have the misconception, and this is why we call the show Facts and Myths, because we're going to break down some of the stuff that's on the streets people are talking about that are not true. people have assumed that it is a replacement for a condom.
So, on that topic, when I talk about PrEP, I talk about it as a secondary defense. It shouldn't be your primary goal. Like if you're on PrEP, it does not completely weigh out all the other factors that you have. And so, along with PrEP, condoms should still be used as much as possible, whenever possible. And so when I was a navigator and I used to tell clients about PrEP, I would say that with PrEP, you want to take it as the secondary line of defense, but in those situations where a condom is not available, a condom breaks, it's taken off, and you don't know, at least you have PrEP in your system as that secondary defense.
Okay. And now, my second question, PrEP is only for gay men?
No. So PrEP is not for just for gay men. Anyone can take it. Men, women, transgender individuals, anyone can be on PrEP. And like I said, you have all these different communities. Like you have sex workers, male or female can both benefit as well.
Okay.
Sorry, and then so yeah, anyone could be on PrEP. It's not just for gay men. If you are a male or female that has lots of partners, or your partner has lots of partners, and that's the case, and at least it's good to have this secondary defense with you.
Got it. And now, as we're talking about females too, and I think some females get the wrong idea that we say it's like a birth control for HIV, but it's not birth control for females, right?
Yeah, no, it's not birth control for females. It's really only focusing on HIV. The reason why I make that comparison is just so, with birth control, you have to take it every single day for it to be effective. And if you start to miss days, with birth control, if you start to miss at least one day, it's the protection drops. With PrEP, if you miss one day, it's not the end of the world, but you want to try to keep it consistent of that daily usage. You take it around the same time every day, so it's very similarities, but again, it's not covering up or taking over for birth control. It's just protecting against HIV.
And then STDs, because I read some studies that say that since the introduction of PrEP, STDs have risen. Why is that?
So, we have multiple different factors that you can take into account with that. They have started doing multi-site testing, so maybe they're catching more cases of chlamydia and gonorrhea in the way that they never did before because of rectal and throat swabs that can detect asymptomatic chlamydia and gonorrhea. But the other factor is there could be an increase of more condomless sex because people are more comfortable that they're on PrEP, and that's something we do want to move away from. We want to tackle one problem, but we also don't want another problem to rise. We don't want a higher rise in chlamydia and gonorrhea, and that's what we're starting to see. So primarily just trying to use condoms consistently and as much as possible, even though you're on PrEP. Because without that, I think we're going to continue to see a rise.
Now, before we move on to Jonathan, Dan Savage, who is a author and very public advocate for for gay rights, recently talked about PrEP and how it was actually an open door to return to barebacking and not being protective and not taking care of yourselves. What's your thought on that?
Again, I never say PrEP is your primary. Like once you're on PrEP, you forget about everything else, and so still just remembering that it should be that secondary line of defense. And I think a big factor that comes along with that is that the education and maybe the counseling from the doctor's perspective. And when they do prescribe their patients PrEP, are they spending time talking about safe sex practices and other risk reduction and other counseling situations? Because that's what's supposed to come along with PrEP. It's not just supposed to be, here, take the medication, go have fun, you're on your own now. And that's why they do this follow-up every 3 months. And so that's a big thing that we can talk about too. But this risk reduction and counseling has to be incorporated with the doctor, and if it doesn't come from there, you're just sending people out thinking that they're completely safe from everything else.
I'm glad you brought up counseling. Why, and is it really important to seek some kind of counseling before you begin PrEP? And I'm going to say this, because any medication that you go on that's going to be a long term has to come with side effects, consequences. There's the pros and there's the cons.
Yeah.
And so counseling, is it important, and why?
And I mean, counseling is mostly to kind of focus on other safe practices. Like, even though you're on PrEP, what else can you be doing to protect yourself? And kind of getting people to think of their own health and putting their health into their own perspective, and having them have control over it. And that's the good thing that comes with counseling, is talking it out, finding these different strategies that will work for someone, and that won't work for other people. But you have to have this whole counseling factor in to kind of figure that out.
Is there anybody that falls under the not good?
It's not that it's not good, but if you're going to be, well, here, if you can't take it every single day, or you know it's going to be a problem to take it every single day, the problem with that is you lose your protection. And if you're not being protected against HIV, and you get exposed to HIV and you somehow become infected while you're on PrEP because you're not taking the medication every single day, now you have this whole other problem of resistance. And so you get HIV strains that become resistant to Truvada. And so if someone is taking PrEP and they're not consistent with it and their protection levels are extremely low, then you start to build this resistance, and now you're positive. Now you have the virus in your system, but you're still taking Truvada, and so it's able to mutate. And down the line, once you do find out that you're positive, you have to go through different kinds of treatment. Truvada now won't work as a treatment. So that's what I would say as the bad candidate, just because you can lead to resistant HIV strains to Truvada, and then that just down the line will trickle into other problems.
Thank you. For those of you joining us right now, this is Putting Together Podcast Live here on Facebook. We are talking about PrEP, the myths and the facts. I have my guests Ryan Assaf and Jonathan Ramirez. If you missed Ryan's part, it would be on the reruns, or you can find it on YouTube later. But now I want to talk to Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan. Welcome to the show. Jonathan and I have actually been friends for a little while, so thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome. I'm so excited.
It's a pretty bold move to tell people that you're on PrEP.
Yeah.
Just like we talked with Ryan, there is this fence, and even in the gay community, there is this fence about taking it or not taking it, labels, stigmas, and then some shame too.
Yeah.
Let's start from the beginning. How did you find out about it, and what motivated you to start taking it?
I've always been very involved with the HIV community. One of my very first partners was HIV positive, and that's actually how I got involved in the whole field. And I was really scared of dating somebody that was HIV positive back in the day. You know, I wasn't educated about it. I didn't know where to turn. So just through years of experiencing this, when PrEP was finally made available, it took me a while to sort of come around to the idea of having to take something every single day. But I think at the end of the day, everything just outweighed what I was thinking, and for me it was just the best choice.
What was, in that first period when you were learning about HIV and it, what were some of the first myths that you bumped into?
Oh God, I don't even think it was myths. It was so when you first come out of the closet, you get this like constant barrage of like things when you start looking on the internet. What it's like, you know, coming out of the closet and what you should be experiencing as a gay man. And one of the very first things that you always learn about is HIV and how your population is just so vulnerable to it. And that it almost feels inevitable at some point that in some point in your life you're probably going to contract the HIV. But as far as myths, I mean, I was scared to like pop my boyfriend's zits because I thought I was going to be exposed to it. It's just really silly, stupid things that I didn't know back in the day that now I know that I'm not exposing myself to any of those risks. But it's things like that you don't really think about.
Right.
Yeah.
So how long between that initial introduction to you learning about PrEP?
I learned about PrEP when it first came out in 2012.
Okay.
But I was, it's not like I was celibate, but I just wasn't sexually active. So I didn't find it necessary to explore that possibility. I mean, I'll say, like, I had a pretty repressed sexual life.
Okay.
For about 25 to 27 years. It was always having sex, but always having that fear of contracting an STI or contracting HIV. So there was never like a feel free to explore
Right.
and you know, do what feels good and what doesn't feel good. You know, it's like, so that's why it took me so long to sort of come to PrEP, because I really wasn't sexually active and I wasn't planning on being sexually active. Once I started becoming sexually active, it just worked for me.
Okay. What were the first, if you can take us back to those, when you finally sat down and thought about it and said, I think now is the time to go on PrEP. Were there steps to take? Did you have a to-do list of things you needed to take care of?
Yeah, so the process itself is very simple. I think that I was always a promoter like of PrEP, and I thought that everyone should be on it. And I was just talking because I wasn't on it, but like I didn't need to be on it.
Do as they say.
Yeah, so then finally I was just like, why am I not on PrEP? Like, let's just try it out so I can talk to people about first-hand experiences of what it's like to be on PrEP and what the process is like. And so that's when I finally started. So I started about 8 months ago.
Okay.
7 to 8 months ago. So it hasn't been that, well, I guess some people...
Relatively, yeah.
Yeah, relatively long. So all I did was I went to my primary care physician and I asked them for a referral to get prescribed PrEP. So the primary care physician doesn't actually do it, so he referred me out to an infectious disease specialist, who's the same type of doctor that treats people that are HIV positive.
Now, was your primary doctor knowledgeable, or did he have any information on PrEP?
He was.
He was?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So I think he kind of was forced to. So I have a really cute doctor, and anytime anybody asks me like, "Oh, I really need to find a good doctor," I'm like, "I've got your guy." So I like sent him an influx of like gay men to his office. So I think he was sort of forced to like learn about PrEP. So
it's safe to say that a lot of primary physicians out there are not familiar with PrEP. So if it's something that you are interested in, or as we speak a little more, and you're like, I want to know, make sure that when you go to your doctor, you have some kind of knowledge already. Be prepared. So if there's something that you want to ask, please ask us now. Just go ahead and check in and with Martha, and she will forward the questions to us. Well, you are pretty knowledgeable as far as the HIV community is.
Yeah.
You're a pretty big advocate. So I'm not going to lie to the audience and go, you have no clue what's going on. So no, we didn't just grab him off the street. So you're pretty knowledgeable. You're pretty active in getting information. How easy was it for you to access information about PrEP?
I lived and breathed it. So for me, it was really easy. But I also made sure that people that needed it had access to it. So I'm a really big advocate for everybody at least trying it for 30 days and see what it's like and see if they feel comfortable with it.
Okay, so let's go back to your timeline. You go to your primary, he sends you to a specialist. Yeah. What's the process there?
So then the specialist saw me. She gave me an HIV test and she ran a few labs to make sure that my kidneys and liver were working properly. And then after I got those results, she officially prescribed me 30 days of PrEP.
Okay. Can we make a footnote real quick?
Yes.
Why important to check your liver and kidneys?
There are some rare side effects to PrEP that can include reduced your liver and kidney working.
The enzymes?
Or just kidneys?
Okay. You're good. Yeah, we're looking at Ryan like, we're doing good, Ryan. I feel like we're getting a report card at the end of
the so that's why it was, and they run it every time I go. So I get my prescription refilled every 3 months. So every 3 months I go in for an HIV test and for the kidney and liver.
So everybody that goes in for PrEP will initially get that checkup, correct?
Yeah, so in order to get onto PrEP, the first thing that they do is, one, make sure you're HIV negative. And then they check your liver and kidney to see if everything's functioning fine and to see if your body can handle it. And they also do STD testing as well, and they repeat this every 3 months. Again, like Jonathan is saying, there are some really rare side effects. There is reduced kidney function, but that usually stops. That goes back to normal once you stop the medication. But there is a very, very rare possibility. And so
Because lifestyle may not exclude you from being on PrEP, but health issues may stop you. So that's really important to know that if you are sexually active, and if you think about going to be sexually active, maybe your lifestyle will not stop you. Maybe you're a great candidate for PrEP, but once you go in for that checkup, there could be issues. So just be aware of that. We're trying to lay out all the facts and myths along with all the bumps in the road, so that you're ready for it when you go in. So they give you your prescription. Obviously, everything went well.
Yes.
Or you wouldn't be
Yeah.
here right now. How is that? Because I'm on Truvada for HIV for my treatment. How was your first week on Truvada? And please don't tell me you had no side effects, because I would throw these papers at you right now.
I did experience a few, but nothing like that affected my quality of living. I think it was mostly like a dry mouth and like fatigue. But I mean, I'm always tired, so it just added on.
If it happened,
yeah, just like whatever. And I did take it at night, so I sleep through any side effect that I may have. So that was just what I was told, in order for it to help with that side effect.
Do you have a list, or do you know offhand some of the side effects that may happen?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of the same as when you take any kind of medication. It's your body getting adjusted to it. The biggest things are usually gastrointestinal, so maybe some upset stomach or diarrhea, or feeling of nausea. You can also be restless or sleepy, so it kind of depends, like Jonathan was saying, for him, it worked to take it at night, so if it made him sleepy, at least he sleeps through it, or if it made him feeling those side effects, he kind of sleeps through it. For others, I've had people who are restless when they take the medication, and so taking it at night is not going to be the case for them, and it's better for them to take it during the day. But again, nothing super crazy. I've had some people who have had some really bad stomach pain, but nothing, and again, with these side effects, some people can experience nothing at all. Some people can experience a very, very minor effects, usually for about a couple days. It goes away after that time. And there's been some people who have a little bit more of a reaction to the medication, and it kind of just varies from person to person. And I think the longest person I've known was about 3 weeks of some kind of side effect.
Cool. Yeah, because I know for me, Truvada, I definitely have to take it at night. I don't take it during the day because it makes me nauseous and it puts me to sleep. I do have acid reflux issues, so Rolaids at night is a perfect thing for it. And I used to get nightmares in the very beginning with it, but I got nightmares from a lot of medications, so who knows. So you're on it you're on it for now 8 months now. Do you share with people now that you're on it? I mean, at the beginning.
I really wanted to share my experience because I think that the more people know about it, and because there's this debate, like whether or not it's doing it good for the community or it's actually doing something bad for the community. So I really wanted to share my story because I think it's important that at least everyone that goes on it is educated about it. There are some, risk factors that come with using it, but I think if you understand what they are, then you can take care of them.
What has been the majority of response for people, positive or negative?
It's, there's not been like a wow, I'm so proud of you for being on PrEP, or like, oh, I can't believe you're on PrEP kind of thing. It feels almost like a normal conversation, like, oh, by the way, I'm on PrEP, and then they'll be like, oh, cool, I'm on PrEP, or I'm undetectable, or whatever the case may be. But that's just sort of the type of people that I know. It's like everyone is so open about it that it's not like a big deal.
Right.
And so I think everyone at some point knew that I was probably going to go on it. So it wasn't like a big shock for anybody.
Because it seems to me that in only 5 years, in only 5 years, PrEP has become kind of like, especially in the gay community, it's like talking about condoms or talking about going to a party. PrEP is just a normal conversation now, but yet people don't really know what it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's and because of that debate that debate started early in the very beginning of the Truvada pill, and so for a lot of years it wasn't promoted as it should have been because Gilead, who is the pharmaceutical company that does it, didn't want to be involved. They said, here's a product, use it at your own risk. We're not going to promote it. We're not going to, because they were scared that there was going to be a shift of more STIs, and so if they're promoting it, that means they're promoting sex without a condom. And so for a long time, they really didn't promote it as they should have. So it's really just in the last 2 years that it's gotten track and mentions, and I think that we have a long way to go still, but it's gotten better.
Let's talk about that for a second. Now that we're in our second half hour of the show,
okay.
If anybody out there, we're in the second half hour, we're talking about PrEP myths and facts, and I have Brian, who is our educator, and Jonathan, who is a consumer, talking about our experiences. I'm going to be honest, before we go into the next hour, I'm going to be honest, I was one of those people on the old-fashioned side of the fence. I was on the no, please don't do it. Because I actually thought, like, people are not going to be responsible. Mm-hmm. We're going to have all these STDs or STIs on the rise. We're going to have all these other issues that we're not addressing still mm-hmm. in public. Because, like, for instance, going to high schools, we can talk about HIV and AIDS and prevention, and we can tell them about PrEP, but we can't take a condom into the school. So I was like, well, what's the point? Mm-hmm. We're still putting them. We're sending them to war with the knife, and they're not going to defend themselves. So I was very much against it. But as I get to meet more people and realize that their quality of life or their social lifestyle has improved, I'm like, well, wow, that makes a difference. What's your opinion?
There's just, like I said in the beginning, there's a certain anxiety when it comes to being sexually active in the gay community. Because you really don't know what could happen. We are a community that's highly affected by it. So, like I said before, every time you have, or at least every time I had sex, there was always like a fear. If a condom breaks, something could have happened. Or if I'm too intoxicated to make good choices and maybe I didn't wear a condom that night, something could have happened that night. There's a certain relief that comes with knowing that you have the condom, but you also have the PrEP pill that works for you.
Right. Should the condom break?
Right.
We're good. No pregnancy in this one.
Right. But I also want to just point out that we keep hearing people saying that people that are on PrEP and are having condomless sex are irresponsible. But I disagree with that. Okay. Condoms have been around for a long time. We've been using them and we know that they work. But we also know that they don't work for everybody. Condoms have been around and HIV infections have still continued to be there. Yeah. So, there's nothing shameful about contracting an STI. There's nothing shameful about saying I caught gonorrhea or I caught chlamydia. If you know what's going on, if you're choosing to, go on PrEP and perhaps not be as good with condoms as you should be, you also know that you have to get tested for STIs very regularly. And so I think throwing the expression around people being irresponsible because they're not using condoms and are only using PrEP, I think that just sort of increases the stigma surrounding PrEP.
And that's actually, I've turned my, I'm not going to say 180%, but I'm a 90% turn.
Okay, well, you're almost there.
I can see the benefits, but I'm still like, shame. What would you tell people who say, well, I'm positive, but say I was negative and I came in and I'm like, well, I have sex sometimes. I have sex and sometimes I forget to put on a condom, but I don't want to go on PrEP because people might get the wrong idea about me. Because let's face it, that was thrown out there in a lot of threads. Oh, it's people who are whores and there's people who just want to stick around, but not necessarily. So if I came to you, and somebody out there is listening, I came to you and said, and you can look at the camera where you're saying this one, I came to you and I said, well, Ryan, I'm afraid of being shamed for doing something, as Jonathan said, that makes me a little more responsible. What would you tell him?
So I've had a couple of situations where people felt like that, but you have to take into account that this is your life. This is your, you're the person in charge of your health, your life, and it's really only you at the end of the day. And so no matter what people tell you, no matter how people view you, you have to take into account that, like, they're not going to be experiencing any of the effects that you're going to experience. And so if you need this, if you want this to protect yourself and you want this to empower yourself, then definitely go out there and do that. Like, don't let anyone restrict you from protecting your own health and putting your health in your own hands.
Right.
So
there you go. Yeah, because it's really about you, and I'm going to use you as the general you.
yeah.
You have to feel right with being a sexually active man and not fearing everything, because I think we lived in fear for so long, just with HIV, that this has given us a little, for lack of a lifeboat to swim on and be like, whew, I can have sex again and not be completely scared. I was going to say, completely scared. Is that correct?
Yeah. You know, it's like when you get on the freeway, every time you get in your car, there's a possibility that something bad could happen. And so there was a lot of people living in that sort of fear, like, I'm going to get into this car and I'm going to get in a car accident. PrEP is just the seatbelt that you're putting on to protect yourself better. That's really all it is.
And I really like Jonathan's analogy right there. And then also, there has been a lot of people that I know who have been on it do say that they've lost this anxiety of this constant fear of, oh, if something happens, I have a really high chance of getting HIV. Another thing to throw it out there, on top of PrEP, there's also PEP, which is post-exposure prophylaxis. And so this is kind of like, if for those people that taking a daily pill is just not going to be the case, and it's just really hard to do that. If you ever do have an experience where you know or you are pretty sure that you've been exposed to HIV, there's a medication called PrEP. So again, post-exposure prophylaxis. You have to take it within 72 hours, as close to 24 hours as possible to that sexual interaction, and take it for at least 28 days after, and by the end of that, it will make sure that interaction that you had will not lead to an HIV infection. And so that's just something else out there, because there are tools, but people just don't know about it, and it's not the person's fault. It's the way we talk about it, and the stigma and resistance that we have associated with this, and the lack of knowledge in the medical community as well.
So for anybody out there, if you're tuning in and watching, if you have any questions, and I'll check in with our production, see if we have anybody on the line with any questions or any comments. We were talking about PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis, and I finally got to say it right. I used to say it wrong in schools all the time. And we're talking to Ryan Assaf and Jonathan Ramirez, educator and a consumer. Do we have anything? If not, I still have some questions. Okay. If somebody's under 18 years old, can they take PrEP?
So it's FDA approved for 18 and over, but there are doctors that will prescribe it. Now it gets a little bit complicated with dealing with insurance and coverages and stuff like that, but it is possible to get linked and to get onto the medication even though you're underage. And so there's work moving towards that.
So another question here on the list is couples. If a partner is HIV positive and a partner is HIV negative, are they good candidates for it?
Oh, those are perfect candidates. So that especially so the best combo when it comes to HIV is if one partner is undetectable and the other partner is on PrEP. The chances of transmission is almost non-existent. Now I can't say everything is 100%, like it's not going to happen, but it's almost non-existent. It's really not going to happen, even if you're having condomless sex. And that's the good thing with PrEP is for couples, is that it can institute this sexual health and sexual embracement between couples that wasn't there before, because you always have this fear of what if I do get HIV down the line.
Right.
And so now it kind of breaks down those barriers and allows couples to be more interactive with each other and build these stronger relationships with each other.
Well, I'll be honest, because that to me was kind of a relief. My listeners or my viewers know about my cancer, and definitely sex and any kind of activity had stopped for a while. But I'm positive and my partner's negative, so that brought a little bit of relief that when our sex activity starts again, we're like, okay, well, maybe we can talk about it. We discussed it in the beginning when I was not for it. I was like, no, we were not going to do this. But I'll look at Jonathan's making my mind.
Yay.
Another question here on the list is, if a friend is HIV positive and is taking Truvada, can I just take one of his pills and take them for myself?
So I would not recommend that at all. With PrEP, again, you have it's important to have those procedures that go along with getting onto PrEP, such as going in to see your doctor, getting tested, and having that link that you just wouldn't have if you were to start doing that. I mean, PrEP, I don't know if we really went into this too much, but it is, the drug itself is Truvada. And this medication has been used for HIV treatment in the past, and that's why we know so much about it, but they realize if they give you this before you're exposed to HIV and you have this in your system, then it can help prevent HIV. So in case anyone was missing on that. But, so would it work? I mean, probably. But I would never suggest that. And I would say definitely go through the route of going through a provider and getting that workup along with PrEP. Because that's the most crucial part. It's not just about taking the medication every day.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, like, if your doctor, you're supposed to be doctor approved to start taking the medication, but stealing one PrEP pill or one Truvada pill from your friend is really not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Right.
So, depending on what type of sex you're having, it takes a certain amount of time for PrEP to be fully incorporated into your blood in order for it to be working properly. So one pill is not going to do anything.
It's not like taking your friend's leftover pain medication
No.
from the dentist. This is way more complicated than that.
And can I just add on that?
Sure.
I mean, Jonathan has a good point there. Like, depending on the type of sex that you're having, you have to take it for a certain amount of days. So, for anal receptive sex, so if you're a bottom, and then also for male, female, you have to take it for at least 7 days to build up enough protection in the anal cavity. And you have to take it for at least 20 days to build up enough protection in your blood and in the vaginal cavity for women with inserted vaginal sex, and also in the penile tissue as well. So the good number is 7 if you're primarily a bottom or anal receptive, but 20 is that number that you have to take every single day before you can really have the full protection and the full effect of PrEP.
So what happens if you're on it and you decide to go off it? Can you come back?
Yeah, I was told you don't even need to check in with me if you decide to stop taking it. Just stop taking it. And she said if you want to re-enlist and start taking it again, then you can check in with me. But she said there's the process to stop it and just stop it whenever I want. So for however I feel I want to keep taking it, I can. But whenever I want to stop it, I can just cut it off completely.
Yeah, because we're always concerned about, especially in the HIV community, about being. I lost the word now.
Oh, like missing a medication?
Yeah, adherence to the
Adherence,
medication.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but not in this case.
But I mean, so in this situation, yeah, you can stop the medication at will, and it's not a medication that you have to be on for the rest of your life. It's as long as you feel that you need it. But the other thing is you want to stop the medication at least 20 to 28 days after your last sexual experience, if it was condomless sex. Just because, again, this number comes from taking PrEP, that post-exposure prophylaxis. You don't want to your body. So when you have sex, your body is exposed to HIV. This medication is not keeping HIV from getting into your system. It's just making sure that HIV virus has nothing to bind to start replicating and to survive in your body. And so when it comes to that, that's we say you want to take it for at least 28 days after your last sexual experience. Because in case there is HIV in your system, you want to make sure it has nowhere to survive and has no way to survive. So that if you stop suddenly, if let's say your last sexual exposure was yesterday, and it was someone who is positive, and now you probably have HIV in your system, and if you're suddenly stop PrEP, all of a sudden, the virus still has a chance to infect you. So you need to take it for at least a buffer period before you stop the medication completely.
Got it. So, yes.
Is it possible to go over the possible side effects of when you first start taking PrEP? Just a real quick summary. Someone was asking.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as far as short-term side effects, again, maybe some upset stomach, diarrhea, nausea. You could also feel restlessness, sleepiness, headache. It kind of just depends on your body's reaction to the medication. There's no real set, this is what's going to happen. Some people experience nothing at all. Some people experience for a couple of days. Some experience it for a couple of weeks. But those usually go away, and once they go away, you're okay. Long-term side effects are possible liver, kidney damage. Those are really, really rare. But there is reduced kidney function, primarily because your body's clearing out this medication, so your kidney function is just going to go down. But once you stop the medication, your kidney function goes back.
Cool. Thank you. One of the questions on this list is, you're taking PrEP to be more open sexually. Are there any sexual side effects to taking PrEP?
What do you mean?
Like diminished stamina or...
Or erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
No, I haven't experienced anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's been working good.
Cool. So for those of you who are concerned that have taken a medication, because some medications do cause side effects, both emotionally, physically, sexually.
So, yeah.
Have you experienced any other kind of side effects, like emotional or fatigue? Well, you don't talk about always being tired, but have you noticed a little extra, like, emotional headaches or...
No, so the only time I sort of get like anxious is it's like when I think I've forgotten to take it one day, and I'll start I have an alarm and it goes off every day at 9 p.m. and sometimes I'll be like, okay, I'll get it in 5 I'll stop it. I'm like, I'll get it in 5 minutes. And then 5 minutes go by and I completely forget about it, and I'm freaking out trying to remember, like, oh my god, did I take it? Did I not take it? So that's the only thing that sort of gives me anxiety, because then I feel like I'm not as protected as I should be, and I've only missed it, I think, maybe 3 times in the last 8 months, which is not bad. So
that was my next question, because even in the HIV community, we used to be about this 100%, no less than 100%. But then over the years, I mean, especially me being 17 years in,
That's amazing.
I've missed a couple of doses, and I'm like, oh, okay. I left them at home, or they're in the other room, and I'm already tucked in bed, and you're like, I'll be fine. There's always that extra. You can wait 24 hours and take it the next day. Is that possible with PrEP?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so the ideal goal is to take it every single day, 7 days a week. Now the minimum requirement to be protected at this about about 92% is 4 days a week. So you have this buffer. Now we never say only shoot for 4 days a week. We say shoot for 7, but if you miss it 1 day or even 2 days, your protection is still going to be in this high 90s. And so that's something to keep in mind, that you do have this buffer. You're not, if you miss it, it's not the end of the world. Just make sure you don't take 2 pills the next day. Right. Just take 1 pill.
Yeah, don't ever take
it as if you took it the day before, and you continue on, and you're not going to have any negative effects of that.
As a consumer, does that offer a little bit of breathing room, knowing that if you miss a dosage, it's
not to me. I feel like I'm so anal. Like, if I miss it once, I'm gonna get HIV, and I know I shouldn't think like that, but personally for me, I have to take it every single day. It just makes me feel
better.
It makes. I know I have that buffer, but I don't like to rely on it.
And another thing is too is like it's easier to develop a habit if you're doing it every single day, versus if you're doing it 6 times, 5 times a week. Like, even though you're still protected, and I don't suggest aiming for those numbers. I mean, aiming for those 7, at least you can help try to build a habit. Then down the line, a couple months in, it's really not as hard as it was at the start.
Got it. And let me tell you, folks, that there's a lot of things that your pharmacist can do for you in order to help you out when it comes to medications. Take it from me, I take medications every day. If you go to your pharmacist and you're very nice about it, they can actually have, I should have brought them into the room to show, they can individually wrap all your medications for the day. So if you have a pharmacist and you have a list of medications that you take every day, they will individually wrap every one of those, and they come in this little rip-off packet instead of a bottle. And what you do when you get home is you mark the date of the calendar. You mark every day so that you know that you've taken it. And as you peel it off, I will admit, sometimes I don't follow it, and I forget what day I'm on, and then I go back and I'm like, is today Tuesday?
Yeah.
So if you ever grab me, it's because I was looking at my packets. I'm like, no, today's Thursday. Like, damn it, I didn't take last night. So I'm dead. Before I continue, I want to make sure I had some notes that were given to me over from the Laguna Beach Community Clinic. Dr. Engo.
Dr. No.
No? That's how you say it? Okay. My bad. I should have asked beforehand. Is that your doctor? He's been an HIV specialist for 15 years, certified. And they are here at Laguna Beach Community Clinic. For those of you that don't know the address, 362 3rd Street, Laguna Beach, California, 92601. And you can call them at 949-494-0761. That's 949-494-0761. And they will help you out with all kinds of information. But over at AIDS Services Foundation, we also have some specialist folks that I know you were there for one, and I want to say on the air that when I was getting my information for PrEP for my education classes that I do, Ryan was my teacher. He's the one that gave me everything I know. So if I misinformed you and you're one of the people that I spoke to, it's his fault. I was good
like that.
But we do have specialists over at ASF that provide education and information and can direct you to the right position, right?
Absolutely. So, I mean, getting on a PrEP is not the easiest thing, primarily because there's a lot of doctors that just don't know about it, especially primary care providers. So really the ones that we go to at this point are infectious disease specialists. So you don't have to do this alone. There's a PrEP navigator at the AIDS Services Foundation. There's also PrEP navigators across Orange County in a coalition. But the navigator's number, if you want to go, or if you want to call or text, is 949-590-5310. I have that number memorized by heart because that was me. But we try to make it as easy as possible, and it's not just us. We will work together to spread this information and help everyone in our community and this community together. So it's not something you have to go through alone, and the navigator will help you do that, or just pass by and ask to speak with Angel because he's in here.
And then we have also the radar office in Santa Ana.
So
I don't know the information offhand. I forgot to get it, but it would be, I would post it on with the video, and it would be on the YouTube link. So you can go over to the radar office, and they have exceptional people there able to help you out with anything you want, from testing all the way to getting to the PrEP if you want that. Part of the tradition of my show, we're running out of time, we're almost going to the hour, is to give words of wisdom to the folks watching, in this case, or listening. And in case you missed it and you don't want to watch it, this will be on the podcast list later on in the year. So part of the tradition is to send some words of wisdom to our listeners. And since we have two different sides of it, as a consumer, if somebody out there is still fearful, ashamed, embarrassed to want to go on it, Jonathan, what would you tell them? And if you want to just...
So I am a true believer that everyone should experience what it's like to be on PrEP for at least 30 days and see what it's like, see what people are talking about. Don't let anybody shame you for wanting to explore your sexuality. There's nothing wrong with exploring and fulfilling fantasies. Just make sure that you're educated about it and make sure you have all the information that you have. At the end of the day, it's your body, and this is the body you're going to have for the rest of your life. So don't let somebody tell you shouldn't go on it for certain reasons, whatever it may be. Maybe it's not appropriate for you, maybe it is. Just make sure you do your research and tell me all your tell me how it goes. I want to hear. I want to hear what it's like for you. Again, it's something you don't have to be on for the rest of your life. It's something you can just try, and I guarantee it's going to change your life.
Cool. And then Ryan, as an educator, because I still consider you an educator,
Yeah.
regardless of what job you have. For somebody out there who is overthinking it, what would you tell them?
So, I mean, kind of just going a little bit off Jonathan as well. At the end of the day, it's your life. You have to do what you need to do to protect yourself, to empower yourself, and to stay as healthy as possible. And if you feel that PrEP is a good choice for yourself, then definitely go out and do that. And I mean, it's not a medication that you have to take for the rest of your life. Like Jonathan, it's something that you can try, see if that's something you can do, see if it works for you. And again, just remember, you have to take it every single day and hit those 20-day period to build up enough protection. But go out there and try it out and see if it's something that works for you. And communicate with your doctor, communicate with a navigator, and there are resources out there, so you don't have to do this alone. And at the end of the day, like I said, it is your life, it is your health, so take charge of it and empower yourself.
Cool, excellent, thank you. Well, Ryan, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks so much.
Jonathan, thank you for coming on. I really love you, both of you guys. These guys they've been friends now for a while, and I really appreciate them coming and share their stories and sharing the information that they have. I want to thank y'all for listening. In case you're just now joining us, we're talking about PrEP, myths and facts with Ryan Assaf and Jonathan Ramirez.
What does PrEP stand for?
PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis.
Yeah.
We might have to come back and talk more. There's more information out there, and it changes daily. Remember that everything that comes with medication, anything that involves HIV, AIDS, sexuality, homosexuality, it is a constant evolution, and there's always new and better information out there. Don't limit yourself, and don't limit your sexuality. Don't limit your life. Step out of your comfort zone, and you will see how wonderful life can be outside of there. So with that said, for Lilmesican Productions, for Christian Ramirez, Martha Ormonde, and Lee Worrells, here at Together Podcast Studios, Lilmesican Studios, I want to thank you for joining us.